The rise of BRICS, comprising Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has significantly impacted the global economy, representing a substantial portion of the world's population and GDP. These nations are advocating for a more equitable global economic order. However, BRICS nations have expressed dissatisfaction with the governance structures of the International Monetary Fund and the World Trade Organization, arguing that these institutions are dominated by Western economies and do not adequately represent the interests of developing countries. A primary concern is the voting power within the IMF, which is disproportionately held by developed nations, thereby limiting the influence of emerging economies. Furthermore, BRICS countries often criticize the IMF's quota system and the conditions attached to its loans, which they argue can hinder economic growth. The WTO too has faced challenges in resolving trade disputes, particularly those involving developing countries, prompting BRICS members to call for reforms to make the WTO more effective and equitable. Don't forget to like and share this video if you find it interesting. In response to these challenges, BRICS nations have been working to strengthen their economic cooperation and create alternative platforms. For instance, the New Development Bank (NDB), an alternative to the World Bank, aims to mobilize resources for infrastructure and sustainable development projects in BRICS and other developing countries. Additionally, the Contingent Reserve Arrangement provides a pool of foreign exchange reserves to support member countries in case of liquidity crisis. BRICS members are also working to expand trade among themselves, reducing reliance on traditional trade partners. At the upcoming BRICS summit in Kazan, one of the key topics on the agenda is the reform of international financial institutions, specifically the IMF and the WTO. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov has emphasized the importance of addressing these issues to enhance the global economic governance system and make it more inclusive and representative of emerging economies. BRICS nations are pushing for reforms that will better reflect the economic realities of the 21st century, including revising the IMF's quota system to give more weight to developing nations and restoring full functionality of the WTO's dispute settlement mechanism. The IMF has faced significant criticism for its policies, particularly from countries in the Global South. Structural adjustment programs imposed by the IMF as conditions for loans have often led to increased poverty and social inequality. Examples of countries that have suffered due to IMF loans and imposed policies include Egypt, where the removal of subsidies on basic food items led to significant price increases and mass protests, and Brazil, where the conditions attached to IMF loans included fiscal austerity and structural reforms impacting public services and economic growth. In Nigeria, structural adjustment programs led to widespread protests and economic hardship, culminating in violent uprisings in 1989. What do you think about the challenges faced by BRICS nations? Let us know in the comments below. The dissatisfaction with the IMF and WTO has led to the exploration of alternative platforms for economic cooperation and development. Notable alternatives include regional development banks such as the New Development Bank, the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, and the African Development Bank, which aim to provide financing for infrastructure and sustainable development projects in member countries and other emerging economies. South-South cooperation, involving collaboration among developing countries to share knowledge, technology, and resources, bypasses the international North-South development model. Regional trade blocs like the European Union, the African Continental Free Trade Area, and Mercosur facilitate trade, investment, and economic integration among member countries. While these alternatives offer promising avenues, they also face challenges. Regional development banks may still be influenced by geopolitical considerations, and South-South cooperation can be constrained by limited resources and capacity. Trade blocs can face internal disparities and external pressures. The BRICS bloc has emerged as a counterbalance to Western-dominated global institutions like the IMF and WTO, creating geopolitical tensions with major Western powers, primarily the United States. The US-China rivalry is the most prominent geopolitical tension impacting the BRICS, with competition expanding to various spheres, including technology, trade, and influence. China, a core member of BRICS, is often viewed as a strategic competitor by the US, leading to increased scrutiny of Chinese economic activities and investments. Western countries, including the US and its allies, have imposed sanctions on Russia, a BRICS member, over its actions in Ukraine. These sanctions have had significant economic consequences for Russia and have forced it to seek closer economic ties with other BRICS members. In response to these pressures, BRICS nations have sought to reduce their dependence on the US dollar and Western financial systems, with efforts to create alternative payment systems and currency baskets being part of this strategy. Geopolitical tensions have impacted the functionality of the IMF and WTO. For example, the US has blocked the appointment of judges to the WTO's appellate body, paralyzing the dispute settlement system and weakening the WTO's authority and ability to enforce global trade rules. Similarly, geopolitical considerations can influence the IMF's lending decisions and conditionalities, with countries aligned with the West potentially receiving more favorable terms, while those seen as adversaries may face stricter conditions. Civil society organizations play a vital role in holding the IMF and WTO accountable and advocating for the interests of marginalized groups. CSOs monitor the activities of these institutions and advocate for policies that promote social justice, environmental sustainability, and economic fairness. They work with communities to build capacity and empower them to participate in decision-making processes, counterbalancing the influence of powerful economic actors and governments. However, the CSOs also face challenges such as limited resources, access to decision-making processes, and potential co-optation by governments and corporations. The rise of BRICS represents a shift in the global economic order, challenging the dominance of traditional institutions like the IMF and WTO. While BRICS nations push for reforms to create a more inclusive and equitable global economic governance system, the exploration of alternative platforms for economic cooperation and development continues. Addressing the criticisms and challenges faced by these alternatives will be crucial in shaping a more balanced and fair global economy. Geopolitical tensions and civil society efforts highlight the complexities of the global economic landscape and the challenges faced by developing countries. As BRICS continues to grow in influence, the push for a reformed and equitable global economic order remains a critical and ongoing effort. Will BRICS succeed in rebalancing the global economy, or will the dominance of traditional power structures persist? Only time will tell. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more informative content. Stay safe. Thanks for watching.